Hey YouTube, we are back with tonight's geography revision. AQA Geography GCSE 2025, paper 2, question 2, economic world. That's what we're going to be focusing on in today's little revision session. Let us know who's there for the live revision. Hit us up in the chat, say hello, who are you, where you from, what you up to, how's your exams going, yeah, how was English today? I think it was English across the country. How's that gone? Let us know in the chat. And more importantly, to us here on the channel of Cup of Tea and Case Studies, how did paper 1 GCSE Geography go? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Thoughts, feelings? Yeah, let us know how things got on for you. Today we're going to revise economic world. It's probably the biggest section on paper 2 in terms of content. There's a lot that can come up, looking at development, looking at the development of an economically poorer country, an LIC or a NE country. For my school, that's Nigeria. We study Nigeria. Just be careful because other students may study other countries around the country. Brazil is quite popular, I believe, as well. And then we look at the UK economy, which is what every school does, looking at UK economic change. It's a vast topic, but on this channel tonight, we're going to look at the predictions. So what things are going to come up, which things are more likely to come up in 2025 in this particular area. And we did quite well. We did quite well with paper 1. If you watch the paper 1 series, the 4 videos on paper 1, we did pretty well. But also, if you watch, we've also already done 2 lives on paper 2. So check out the previous videos. We've done one on urban issues and challenges. We've also done one on London, urban change in London and urban sustainability. Check those out on the channel. Shameless plug. Give them a like, give them a watch, and get yourself ready for your exams. So who we got today? First of all, we've got our moderator. Good to see you, moderator. You should be revising, by the way, for your paper 2 on Thursday. So hopefully you're listening in and then revising. But thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you, moderator. And thank you for all the wonderful work that you've done over the last year. Huge hello to Bruno. Fantastic. I love how much effort you put into your geography revision. It's great to see you. Harry's in. Yes, Harry. Glad your comments are working tonight. Really appreciate you dropping by as well. Thank you for being here. Harry has got a lot of exams. He does loads of exams, basically. Has an exam nearly every day. But I'll tell you what, have a day off tomorrow. Rosa's in. Good to see you, Rosa. Thanks for joining us for tonight's revision. Appreciate that. Lovely that you could join us. Literature, English literature was very good. Yes, nice. That's nice. Well done. I'm sure all the exams are going pretty well with the amount of revision that you guys are all doing. That's the thing. Expect a hard exam, revise hard, thoroughly prepare, and it should be all right. It should be okay then. We've got QI in the house. Thanks for joining us, QI. Hi. We had a fire alarm today in the middle of an exam. Is that right? Is that right? I don't know. What, our school? I don't know. I was where was I? Oh, yeah, I was on the other side with the lower school. But yeah, interesting. Did you all have to evacuate? I don't know what happens there. I don't know. Anyway, it's not important to this section. So if you're not doing the live stream before, we do live revision. There'll be some questions. Get involved in the chat. Things you're gonna need are. It's always the same stuff, guys. You can see how much I love this, don't you? Like, I actually love making all this colourful revision. So you need a piece of paper, obviously. That's our piece of paper for tonight's session. Blank piece of paper. You're going to need probably some coloured pencils for your revision. Is my little lights on? Highlighter I always have. A ruler I always have. And obviously a cup of tea, which is doesn't look too tempting. If you're watching on like a podcast version, you're just listening, it looks very grey, my cup of tea. Not very, I like it to look like a nice chocolate biscuit, but yeah, let's give it a go. Yeah, it tastes as good as it looks, which is not great, to be honest. But anyway, it'll get us through the revision. So have we got everything sorted then? Are we ready to go? No, in my, right, okay, yes, cool, right, okay. No, in my school, wow, that's exciting. Oh, that's really exciting. Well, I hope everybody was safe and there wasn't a real fire. I don't know why I'm laughing at that. Yeah, but I hope everyone's safe and everyone got out fine and it didn't disrupt your English exam too much. And you've got good results, I'm sure. I'm sure you've done well. Right, shall we get cracking then, guys? Let's get straight into it. Thank you for everybody for joining us. As I say, let's get going with this bit of revision because you've all got lots of things you can be doing. I know geography revision is fun, but we've got loads of things we can be doing. Right, so I always put my usual little banner at the top. So it's paper 2, which is human geography, obviously. Human geography. There'll be less pictures on here, less diagrams compared to the physical ones. But yeah, human geography, paper 2. And this is question 2. So question 2. Let's just make sure I've got you all focused in, guys. Are we all focused in there? I think so, yeah. Same we are. Question 2, and it's economic world. Economic world. And this is for the 6th of June. Now, this exam it's on a Friday. The 6th of June is a Friday. It's Friday afternoon. So we need 100% effort, guys, from around the country to be brain switched on. And it's not your usual Friday afternoon where you kind of think, oh, that'll be a bit easier now. No, we need you on top form around the country for this Friday PM examination. It's the first Friday back after half term. So I guess a lot of you who are listening to this live stream might be listening to it in their half-term holidays. Right, so what we always do at the top left is things that you cannot avoid revising, things you must revise. I've looked at the patterns for the last 7 years of the exams, and there's things that come up nearly every single year. So I call these my must revise. Let's drop in down here a little bit. Okay, so in the top left-hand corner, guys, of the paper, you can just see that there now. Yeah, these are our must revise. So these won't be on the video, I'm afraid. We can't cover everything, especially in this topic. It's vast. It's a huge topic, but we'll cover the things that I think are more likely to come up, but there's some things I need you to look at outside of the live stream. The first one being the demographic transition model. Demographic means population, characteristics, age, gender, ethnicity, that sort of thing. Demographic transition means to change. Transition model, which is a kind of diagram. It's got 5 stages of the demographic transition model. Stage 1, developing countries. Stage 2, developing countries. And then it goes through stage 3, emerging economies, newly emerging economies, and then stage 4 and 5, HICs. And it's all to do with the birth and the death rate and how that changes. As I say, check it out. If you've got revision guides, make sure you look at the demographic transition model. Unfortunately, we ain't got time to cover it on tonight's live stream. The other thing that comes up quite a lot in this section is your NEE country. So for us, that is Nigeria. Yeah, so doing some revision about Nigeria. Nigeria does focus in today's live stream, but not all of it. We don't look on this live stream at the physical geography, the culture, where it is, political aspects we're not covering today. But yeah, just be aware of Nigeria and its characteristics. And then this is on the channel, shameless plug. And this is LIC/NE country that has used tourism to develop its economy and develop the country. And our example, if you are from my school, we look at Jamaica as a country. Jamaica is actually a case study on the channel, so check out the live tab, click on Jamaica and spend a little bit of time watching or listening to the Jamaica video because that will really help you. It comes up quite a lot. So there are my 3 must revise tips that technically aren't on this video but should still be revised and studied. So we're going to start with development of countries. Development of countries, it's a key term. So I'm just going to highlight the word development. We like our revision to look neat. Development in its simplest form is improving the quality of life in a country / region. So if you are developing a country, you are improving the services, you're improving the infrastructure, you're improving healthcare and education and housing, you're improving people's lives on a daily basis. Such an important job of governments to develop countries. That's one of their main roles, to make everyone's life better who lives in that country. And that's why we vote for these leaders, to make our country a better place to live. So every country is on this development journey. Some countries are further ahead, are more developed. We call them high income countries or HICs. Some countries are further behind on that development spectrum, and they are low income countries or poorer countries. So that's what development is. Every country wants to be developed. Now we can measure development in many different ways. So it is up in the chat, guys, for a Brucey bonus. We need to get a score sheet out. Can you give me a way of measuring development of a country? How do we measure the development of a country? We use development indicators. Can you name some development indicators? So if you're in the chat and you want to be in the quiz, let us know. We've got Bruno, we've got Harry, we've got Rosa, we've got QI. Thankfully, it was a false alarm. That's good. Yeah, thankfully. A bit annoying, though. That's a bit annoying, that was. I bet. Oh, yes, they're all coming in. Development indicators, ways to measure development. Excellent. Well done. Ooh, great knowledge. Yeah, any others? Any others? So we'll flag these up on the screen, guys. Here we go. HDI. What does HDI stand for? For another point. What does that stand for? GDP per capita. Well done. The wealth and goods and services divided by the number of people. So it's like the wealth and the value of services divided by the number of people in that country. GDP per capita. What else we got? Life expectancy. Oh, sorry, I've missed out some of this. Let me go back up here. GNI. Well done. Gross national income. Same as GDP. AQA tend to use GNI, gross national income, the amount of money per person. Okay. Literacy rates. Well done. The percentage of people who can read and write at the age of 16. The percentage of people that can read and write at the age of 16. In the UK, it's about 99% literacy rate. Very good. Birth rate. Superb. So Rosa's got one. Bruno's got another one. Birth rate. The number of live births per 1,000 people per year. That's the bit that all geographers forget. It's the 1,000 people per year is the birth rate. Okay. Try and remember that. Try and be a bit geeky. People per doctor. Yeah, how many people there are for every doctor in the country. Yeah, good. Life expectancy in years. How long you can expect to live. Yeah, age, life expectancy. Well done, QI. And wealth. Yeah, that's GNI. Human Development Index. Superb. Right, so QI's got one. Harry's got one. Bruno's got 3. Wow. Smashing it, Bruno. So a number of these indicators have come up each year, but the one that's never come up, Human Development Index. And I'm shocked. I am so shocked because actually it's probably the most effective measure of a country's development. So let's get some notes, some brief notes about the Human Development Index. Human Development Index. Okay, let's see what we know about this. Okay, so it's Human Development Index. It's a United Nations measure of development. It's the most widely used United Nations measure of development. And it involves 3 measures in one. Okay, who knows? What are the 3 measures that are incorporated into the Human Development Index? And it measures quality of life as well, this obviously. It's measuring the quality of life in a country. So we'll have a little green smiley face because quality of life. Could be good, or it could be negative on this side. That's supposed to be a little sad face on that side. Okay. Oh my goodness, Bruno. Wow. Correct. GNI per capita, life expectancy, and not quite, but yeah, years of schooling. It is. Yeah, you're right. QI, well done, smashing it there. Education, healthcare. Education, life expectancy, and wealth. So the actual definitions are GNI per capita. So that's the first measure. Wealth per person. So that is the wealth. Let's just put a little money bag divided by the population. Yeah. So that's wealth divided by the number of people. Gross national income. So that's the first one. Well done. Second one is life expectancy. Life expectancy. How long on average you can expect to live. So we've got life expectancy there. And it's not quite literacy rate. I don't know why, but they use years of schooling. How many years on average children go to school in that particular country? Yeah. So years of schooling is the measure. Now I don't know what the average is for the UK for that one. Can anybody Google the average years of schooling for the UK? I'd be interested in that statistic. Really interested. Okay, so this is what it works on. It works on a scale. And generally, if your country is plus 0.08, generally got a good quality of life. And obviously, if it's less than, I would say 0.7, it's generally not so good. Okay. So our LICs are generally lower scores, and our HICs are higher scores. As I say, it goes on a scale from 0 to 1. 0 to 1. Oh, thank you, guys. Yeah, so interestingly, 13 years. 13.4 years. Yeah, 13 years. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that. That's interesting. So on average, people go to school here 13 to 14 years on average. So what have you done? So you've done 11 years, obviously, if you're in year 11. So you're not much further, is it, really? You're nearly there, guys. You only got 2 years of college, and then you've hit the average. QI, nice one. Bonus point. I was just about to mention that. Yeah, well done. Switzerland is number 1 currently for HDI. Obviously, as geeky geographers as we are, we've got to be able to name some countries. So here's a little Swiss flag. Sorry, guys. Let me just get you over here. You have to write quite small on these sheets to get all the revision, especially for this topic. There's so much there. So Switzerland is first. It changes every year. Norway's been top. Iceland's been top recently. Switzerland has an HDI score of 0.97. So almost 1. I don't think there's such thing as a perfect quality of life, but 1, if there is, it'd be 1, okay, as a measure. I'm sure every country's got its problems, even Switzerland. And at the bottom, which country do you think might have the lowest ranking for Human Development Index? Some of you will be cheating now using AI or Google or something. Google probably. Here's the flag, by the way, for this country. I don't think you'll get it from my colours. Not when I've done it wrong at the bottom. It should be green. There we go. Bottom. So this must be like 197th, 196th, something like that. Yeah, bottom anyway. Is, I can't remember yet. Harry. Yeah, Harry's first one to get it right. So Harry's in there. Rosa, thank you. You got a point as well. So at the moment it's 3 to Bruno, 2 to Harry, 2 to Rosa, 2 to QI. Well done. South Sudan it is. South Sudan. It's also a fun fact, that's the newest country in the world, South Sudan. What's happened to my camera now? It's paused. Wait up. Just have to oh no, it's caught up now. That was weird. Yeah, South Sudan. It's the poorest country in the world. It's also the newest country, formed in 2011, and it's also the lowest ranked on HDI, and it has a ranking of 0.38. So its HDI score is 0.38. Okay. Which is not great, obviously. Okay, right. I think it's time to move on to the next section. Let's see how much you know about 197th. Oh, yeah. It depends. Sometimes it's 196, 197th. Anyway, just remember it as bottom. But thank you, QI. You can have a bonus point for sharing some interesting facts. 197th. Okay. Okay, so I'm thinking that this year, quite a common question is why are some countries more developed than others? So what are the causes of uneven development? We can break this down into three areas. There's physical, natural causes, why some countries are less developed and poorer quality of life. We've got physical, we've got economic reasons why some countries are less developed. And we've got historical reasons, which I know some people in the chat will particularly like. A bit of history. Historical reasons why some countries are more or less developed than others. So I'm going to draw a little table now with my ruler. And we're going to go for physical. So I'm going to put a little subheading, causes of uneven development. So why some countries are less developed, have a poorer quality of life, and why other countries have a better quality of life or more developed. So hit us up in the chat, guys. Give me a reason for uneven development. Use your brain, not your keyboard. No, you can use your keyboard. What are we on about that? Use your keyboard. You got to write the answers. Use your brain, but don't use Google. That's what I'm saying. Right. Physical or natural reasons. We'll have a column for that. Economic, to do with money and jobs. And I don't want to say another one because it'll give you an idea. And then we've got historical reasons. So let's get a little table going. A rough table. Just going to zoom out, guys. There we go. So far, that's what we've got so far. Down that side, down here. Okay. So causes of uneven development. And we've got physical, economic, and historical reasons. Now, so most of the time, they tend to ask you one category. But for this exam, I can't decide which category they might ask because they've asked quite a few. I'm leaning towards physical because that's the one that's not been on for a while. So we'll see how we get on with that. But yeah, potentially physical factors might be the reason. Right, let's have a little look then, see what we've got in the chat. Oh, lots. Thank you. Geographical is location, yeah, for trade routes, fantastic. So that's kind of physical and economic, but yeah, trade routes. Landlocked, well remembered. Can you name a landlocked country? Landlocked country, because you might need to know one. Country that's landlocked, guys. Harry, colonialism, yes, well done. Conflict, war, landlocked, debt. You clearly know your stuff. QI, war, well done. So we've got one for Harry there. QI's on 4. Yeah, so these are reasons why there's a gap, basically. This is it. Exploitation from TNCs. Yeah, Do you know what you've got to there, Rosa? That is what you call neo-colonialism. It's a very, very difficult, it's like A-level, but it's where you still control and influence countries that you were once colonial countries, and you still have an influence over them, maybe through trade, but you can kind of suppressing them through low pay. You kind of still got a negative influence on them, even though they have their own sovereign country. It's called neo-colonialism. You don't need it for GCSE, but if you want to be really smart and a bit geeky, you can say, yeah, neo-colonialism limits countries from developing. So even though they're no longer colonized, they still impact on their development. Taxes, yeah, good. Yeah, economic, taxation, probably. So what's it about on this live stream? Yes, this live stream is about economic world. Question 2, paper 2, AQA Geography, 6th of June. Yeah, natural resources, that's a good one. I'm sure you, yeah, it's geography. It's geography. It sounds like business and economics at the moment, but it's definitely a geography live stream. Resources, yeah. I mean, if you played Minecraft, you'll know that. If you set up Showing myself sad I am. But if you set up an area of Minecraft on survival mode where there's resources, you're going to develop quicker. You're going to be more successful. Mongolia, landlocked country. Well done. And it's a poor country, isn't it? It's an LIC. So that gets my point. Yara, this looks so much like geography. Yeah, it is geography. Yeah, it definitely is. Right, physical then. Let's get them right down. One that wasn't mentioned, natural hazards. So countries that have lots of natural hazards tend to suffer with their economic development because every time they build houses or infrastructure, it ends up getting destroyed in maybe an earthquake. So there's my collapsed building. Natural hazards. It's costly. Can you think of a country that has lots of natural hazards? Oh, Saban's joining in the quiz. Yeah, you're correct. Governance is a really good one. Well done. I'm going to come back to that one in a minute, actually. Governance. The quality of the government. So thanks for you got a point, by the way, in the quiz. We're adding up points. Okay, so countries. Yeah, Japan has a lot of hazards, but it's not really held it back from its development. Japan is a wealthy, developed country. So I'm going to go with the one that we do it in our school, which is Haiti. Okay, Haiti, island in the Caribbean, really poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. And it's been held back by tropical storms and in particular earthquakes. Yeah, so that would be a good one. Okay, next one, extreme climate areas. So I'm just going to colour these in green. So remember, natural hazards is a physical cause of the development gap. Maybe I should put that up here, actually. These are things that cause a development gap. Key phrase, yeah. I'm going to highlight that. A gap between rich and poor. So countries that have these characteristics are always going to be poorer. So natural hazards and extreme climates hold countries back. Not always. Not all deserts are less developed. Obviously, you've got Qatar, you've got the UAE, the Saudi Arabia, wealthy desert countries, but the vast majority of desert regions is poor because it's very difficult to grow crops. So they tend to suffer from crop failure, famine, agricultural drought, so lack of moisture for crops. And they struggle to get an agricultural industry because it's so hot and dry, you can't grow your crops. So, yeah. Example for that one would be, e.g., because you've got to come up with an example because we're going for top grades here, guys. We are not doing bottom grades. Is Chad. Chad is a country which is, it's also landlocked, which I'm going to mention, but it's also a country with an extreme climate on the Sahara Desert. Right, this one was in the chat. Lack of natural resources. This is one of the reasons why the UK is so wealthy. Because it's resource rich. Lack of natural resources is a big problem. If your country doesn't have resources, it's going to find it very difficult to trade and make money from exporting resources. There's my little lorry that's... So some countries might have logs and timber, like Brazil. Other countries might have coal, like China, and oil, like Russia. The UK has a vast array of resources, actually. We've got really good farmland resources, soils and things like that. We had a lot of wood. We've got coal and oil and gas and wind energy. So resources helps countries develop. But some countries have very little resources. Again, you could use your example of Chad. All the countries pretty much in sub-Saharan Africa, the Sahel region, lack natural resources compared to other countries. Last but not least, we've got landlocked countries. This is a major cause of inequality and a lack of development. So this is where your country is surrounded by other countries, and this is not good. You've got no access to the sea. No access to the sea for trade, imports and exports. Okay. Let me just extend that a bit down further down. Yeah. So my country is landlocked. This limits trade, and there are 16 countries in the continent of Africa that are landlocked. So if you ever wondered why Africa as a continent is poor, the main reason is it hasn't got, it's got 16 countries without access to seas and ports for trade, import and export. It's a big part of any country's economy, and landlocked is a major disadvantage. So being landlocked, that's why the UK again does pretty well, because we're an island nation. We've got access to ports. We can trade with North America. We can trade with Europe. We can trade with Asia. We've got lots of ports, which is advantageous. So there's our physical reasons. Let's drop into our economic reasons. The first one is they have a primary product economy. So the poorest countries tend to earn money from agriculture, farming. And with all the will in the world, your country is never going to get rich from selling agricultural products only. Yeah, you've got to process them to make money. If you turn a potato into, I don't know, what do you make out of potatoes? Chips, yeah? If you process them into chips, you're going to have a little bit more value. You can sell chips. They're a little bit more value, but you're never going to get rich selling potatoes, bananas, cocoa to the rest of the world. You're going to have to sell things like cars, yeah? Manufactured, high-tech manufactured, aeroplane engines like we make in Derby up the road, Rolls-Royce. Those products are worth more value. So poorer countries tend to have primary product-based economies. These are LICs. And these are low-value exports. Okay, they're never going to get you rich. Let's just say, for example, bananas, which also is part of a fair trade product in many countries. But yeah, so things like bananas, if that's all you're exporting, you're going to have to sell a lot of bananas to catch up with the wealth of America and China, aren't you? Yeah, when they're selling high-tech AI technologies and things like that. A good example, though, a country is, e.g., Kenya. In Africa, in East Africa, they sell a lot of green beans and things like that. Let me just draw my green bean there. That's a green bean. They sell a lot of green beans. You're going to have to sell a lot of green beans to catch up, as I say, with the wealth of China. The next one is, and this is what you've got to try and avoid in life, guys, debt. Countries in debt struggle to develop. No surprise, they haven't got money to spend on things that are important, like education and healthcare. So they have to pay back debt rather than investing in education and healthcare. Education and healthcare, which are really important. If a country is going to develop, it needs to invest in its schools, make a skilled population, an intelligent population, and it also needs to invest in quality healthcare so that people live longer. So then you can go up the HDI rating, years of schooling, remember, and healthcare, years of life expectancy. Then the last one for economic would be trading policy. So some countries are in certain groups as advantageous. Let me just bring that down to the bottom there. So trading policy, if you're in or out of a trading group, you could make a lot of money. So countries with allies, friends, put that in brackets, friends, in trade blocks, are wealthier. So if you're in a trade block, country's going to be wealthy. It's more likely to be a HIC if it's in a trade block, which is a group of countries that have agreed to trade together. I'm just going to highlight trade blocks, We've got a very famous trade bloc that you will have heard of, e.g., the European Union. So countries that are in the European Union trade freely with each other, and that's really helped all the countries in that group to become economically stronger, wealthier, and more developed. And the people who live in the EU countries, their quality of life has improved significantly over the last 20 to 30 years. So the EU is fantastic. If you've seen the news, actually, just a bit geeky, the UK has signed a new trade deal with the EU only yesterday, and it's very similar to Switzerland. So that's going to be good news for the UK. So our trading partnership with the UK is going to be with the EU is going to be much better. We've also signed a recent trade deal with India. Again, that's going to help India and us with the movement of goods. But as you noticed, I've not mentioned any of the poorer nations there, because the poorer nations don't get involved. They're not invited to be involved, or they don't have, well, they do have trade blocks in Africa, but they're not as wealthy trading blocks. Right. Historical is colonialism. Colonialism. Really good one to try and remember. So colonialism is where rich, wealthy European countries colonized generally poorer African nations. So this is what I mean by colonization. European HICs colonized LICs for resources and slavery, basically, the slave trade and all that sort of horrible thing that went on there. But they were used, these countries were used, the resources were used to generate wealth for the richer countries. An example of that is South Sudan. So Sudan, I don't know if you know this, used to be part of the UK's British Empire. So they were a colony of ours. We kind of took their resources, we exploited the country to generate wealth. And then when we gave the country back, as you've seen, South Sudan is a very war-torn country. It's politically unstable. So I'm going to put following independence. So when the colonizers leave, like the UK leaving South Sudan, following independence, there's a power vacuum. Like everybody wants to be in charge. Oh, the colonial leaders have gone. Let's all be in charge of the country. And that creates huge political instability, which affects the country long term, which might lead us on to the last one. So political instability, and that's the example there is probably UK and Sudan. And we don't get involved in Sudan anymore, which is crazy, because it's kind of most of the problems in Sudan are due to the British collapse of the British Empire and the withdrawal of British governance. Anyway, that's getting very political. But last one is, and this one is very political, war and conflict. Yes, this is significant, as we've seen in recent years. Let's draw my little tank there. That's what that is, guys. It's a little tank. War and conflict. Unfortunately, war and conflict is only negative. It's only negative for a country generally. It leads to the destruction of the country, destruction of the housing, of the infrastructure, of the bridges, of electricity supplies, energy supplies. It's negative, and then that has to be rebuilt. So a great example of this is Ukraine. Ukraine, prior to 2020, was a much more developed country, but now significantly worse off because of the war. So I'm going to say here, e.g., Ukraine-Russia conflict. That's been going on for the last 3 years, pretty much. Yeah, Ukraine-Russia conflict. And both countries, Russia's been impacted by that as well. Not just Ukraine, but more so Ukraine. Okay, so if we were to kind of be synoptic about this, if we just have a little look at all the reasons here, look, we're going to be a little bit synoptic now and think which one is the main cause of countries not developing. So hit us up in the chat, guys. Give your viewpoints. Let's have a look. Ooh, lots of chat here. Sorry, guys. Yeah, the Philippines would be a really good one, Rosa, for the natural hazards one. Philippines, it has lots of hazards. It puts it back. Bangladesh, yeah, with flooding. Absolutely, QI. So Rosa, QI. Yeah, well done. Yeah, manufacturing clothes. Again, it's a low value export. You're never going to be rich, are you? Rosa creates a development gap. Yeah, absolutely, well done. Sweden's headquarters for what's that? For HM, our headquarters doesn't hesitate. Yeah, well done, QI. Could I use America's recent examples? Yeah, of tariffs, absolutely. Yeah, they're putting tariffs on countries to make sure that they can't trade as easily with the US and make money from US customers, consumers. Yeah, that'd be a really good one. That'd be more like A level, but yeah, put that in. Put that in. That's a fantastic one. I would argue economic. Okay. Natural resources, economic. Oh, Lily's in the house. Yes, thanks, Liz, for joining us. You get a point just for being here and giving us an answer as well. So people say economic. Well, I asked AI. You shouldn't ask AI, should you? It should be your own opinion. So if you think these things here are the biggest factors, trade, debt, and the economy. But AI said these two. So I'm just going to put here main cause. See if you agree with this. Being synoptic. The main cause of countries not developing is corruption of governments. Basically, stealing the governments or leaders stealing money and not investing it back in the country. And that kind of links to number 2, which is weak governance, which I know QI at the start said governments. And to be fair, if the country is not well led, it probably is at least one of the main causes, if not the main cause. Because they have a job to do, which is to develop the country. And yeah, I understand that maybe if you don't start with resources, it makes it difficult, but the main limiting factor probably is weak governance. Right, let's get on to the next section then, which is I'm predicting that there might be a question about this uneven development. Okay, so I'm thinking there could be a section about uneven development in this exam. So I'm just going to put this down here. I usually do these in like 3 sections. So this is our first section. Right. So I'm going to put here consequences, which is what the question would say. Consequences of uneven development. So I'll just say, oops, just zoom in for you guys. Consequences of uneven development. I just realized I'm not on the biggest screen here. There we go. Sorry, guys. There we are. Let's just get in focus. So consequences of uneven development. So this is what the question would say. And it might focus on education. So why education? It varies like between different parts of the world. But I'm going to focus my revision on here on healthcare. Yeah. So whenever there's unevenness, we call it a disparity or disparities. So we're going for the top grades. If some people have something and others don't, there's a disparity. Yeah, it's uneven. So I'm going to put here uneven. These are the words that you can kind of use for disparity. Not fair. Or there is inequality. That would be the highest level word. So disparities means that there is they've got some places have it and some places don't have it. Okay, we're going to talk about quality healthcare. So here's my little green cross. Give it a colour in just to have a little brain break. So global health matters. I just want to make a few little points about global health because I feel that this might come up. The uneven or unfairness in global health. And we're going to focus particularly on low-income countries and their healthcare issues in this particular section. So healthcare, so there's 2 main issues with healthcare in low-income countries. The first one being a lack of skilled people. That's my doctor there. So there's generally, in poorer countries, there is a lack of doctors. that's due to the lack of education. So to get doctors in your country, you have to have a high level of education. In poorer countries, the education system is kind of somewhat lacking or failing. So therefore, you haven't got the skills to be doctors. And those that are doctors often go overseas to get more pay, come to a place like the UK. But lack of doctors or medical professionals, midwives in particular, is lacking in LICs. A lot of births of children are delivered by people that aren't trained in midwifery. So that's why the infant mortality rate is high. Lots of children or lots of babies dying at childbirth because they're not delivered by a midwife. Can you believe that? Yeah, really, really, really upsetting, to be honest. So I'm just checking up on the chat there. So lack of doctors, that's the first issue, or lack of medical professionals. The other issue is that poor countries obviously don't have much money to invest in the hospitals and the care because of maybe lack of taxation in that country. If many people are in the informal economy, they don't pay tax. So governments don't have money. They get it from taxation. They take it from taxation largely. That's the main thing. So if the governments aren't taxing people, or people aren't working in that country because it's a poor country enough, or people are working in the informal economy, there's lack of wealth in those areas. So yeah, hospitals lack investment. So they lack investment. If our moderator's there, there's a little bit of work to do there, Mod. There's a couple of people there that's chatting away to themselves by the looks of it. Anyway, lack of investment, and they've got lack of medical equipment. So less, like life-saving surgery can be done because they haven't got the equipment there. And also a lot of these poor countries haven't got the funding for vaccination programs. Thank you very much, Mod. Vaccination programs are lacking. So things like COVID vaccines or vaccines for malaria and things like that, they can't afford to have those particular vaccines. And unfortunately, people in poor countries, they die from poverty-related diseases. So things that you and I wouldn't die of, poverty-related diseases. Yes, thanks, Lily. I just realised you're saying you're revising for your French tomorrow, which is fantastic as well. Thank you for joining us. Poverty-related diseases. So things that you and I wouldn't die of because there's medication or there's healthcare systems in the UK that help with that. But people in poorer countries do. So poverty-related diseases are such as malnutrition. Well done. Well done, Lorax. Nutrition. Well done. Which is a lack of food or lack of nutrition. Lorax, well done. That's one for you. You've got a point on the bonus scheme. Malnutrition. Other things are things like cholera, malaria. That's a common killer in sub-Saharan Africa. Malaria. And tuberculosis as well is another one, but I can't quite squeeze that in that space. So tuberculosis would be another example. So there's massive disparities in healthcare. So that means that places like Japan have a life expectancy of 84 years. So if you want to live a long life, guys, go and live in Japan, eat lots of sushi. The high standard of living, amazing. The UK, we have a high standard of living and good healthcare. We, on average, live to 80 years. 80 years is good. And the lowest in the world is Chad. I know we keep using Chad. It's good to use the same ones because then you can just keep referring back to it. Lowest in the world is Chad with 53 years life expectancy. So they've got the worst healthcare in the world. Lack of doctors, lack of investment in hospitals, equipment causes a development gap. So there you go. that is our healthcare development gap. Now, we're going to move on to mighty Nigeria. So you do have to know a country from a low income or a newly emerging economy in real detail. So the one that we do at our school is Nigeria. Okay. So we're going to get into this one. Let's have a look so far. That looks fantastic, doesn't it? So we're going to use this big space down here for our knee country, Nigeria. And development comes at a high price. So let's have an investigate. So our knee country, our newly emerging economy country, if you are following from my school, is Nigeria. You can also learn this case study if you're following from other schools, if you wish. But I would advise you to use your own, whichever one you've studied, which might be Brazil. A lot of schools study Brazil. So Nigeria is, that's its flag. It is in West Africa. It's in West Africa. And I'm going to give you some facts about Nigeria. Nigeria is doing really well. Nigeria, if you listen to Barack Obama, he said, if Nigeria fails, Africa fails. Yeah, because what he meant by that was Nigeria is developing the fastest. It's a rapidly emerging economy. It's doing lots of things right. It's now the richest country in Africa. And if this country can't make it as a successful HIC, then the continent is going to struggle. This is the hope. This is the beacon. This is the light. Yeah. So it is the largest economy in Africa now. Largest economy in Africa. What I mean by that is it's the richest country. It's paying a price for its wealth, but it is the richest country. By 2050, I'm hoping I'm still alive. I won't be doing these live streams. I will be retired. But by 2050, it's predicted to be the 21st largest economy in the world. 21st richest country, which is fantastic. Yeah, this is what success looks like, going up the league tables of wealth. It provides the world with oil. Its main export is oil. This is how it generates its wealth. Its main export is oil. And it provides 2.7%, which doesn't sound a lot. It isn't a lot, is it? But it provides 2.7% of global oil supply. Saudi Arabia is much higher. They're the biggest. Maybe we could just put a little oil canister there. There you go. That says oil on it. There you go. That's our little oil canister. It's also, the main thing it sells is oil, and Nigeria is described as a single product economy. Single product economy, which basically means that when the oil price is high, Nigeria is making a lot of money because that's what it sells. But when the oil price crashes globally and oil prices are low, Nigeria makes less money for its economy. And this is the main product that it sells. It's got a very dangerous strategy of relying on one thing, main thing for its exports. But that's it. It's a single product economy, and that is oil, the oil sector. It's got some major TNCs, or transnational corporations. TNC is a company that is global. It has its headquarters usually in a HIC, like the US or the UK, and it has its production usually in its poorer nations, like Nigeria. So the TNC that we looked at, that we studied, was Shell, which is a UK and Netherlands company. That's why it's called Royal Dutch Shell. And it has the symbol of a shell, yes, on it. And also, thanks, yes, Bruno, you are amazing. We've also got a company called Unilever, which makes food-based products. It's a big TNC. Unilever, they make household products like cleaning products. They make food products. They make Marmite, guys. Those people that are watching from my local school, Burton, they make Marmite, which is made in Burton, but it's a Unilever product. But yeah, Unilever is also there as well. So it all seems to be going well. They're climbing up the league tables for wealth. The economy's booming. They're the richest country in Africa. But it's coming at a very high price. So now we're going to look at the price that Nigeria is paying for its rapidly growing economy. And we're going to look at socioeconomic impacts. This is what I think could come up in 2025. So the socioeconomic impacts of development in a knee country. If that comes up, a lot of people around the country will struggle with this. So hopefully by watching this live stream, you'll be like, yes, I know the impacts of Nigeria's development on the people and the economy. And then we're also going to focus on the environment as well. But I'm going to focus on the people and the economy first. And then we'll focus on the environment second, because that's devastating. So socioeconomic means people and wealth, basically. Well, we've talked a lot about the positives of the wealth. It's generated a huge amount of income over recent years for Nigeria, but it's not all fantastic. The people of Nigeria have paid a big price in terms of their health. So rates of health, Nigeria's life expectancy is low. It's one of the lowest in the world at 54 years. And that's because of all its industrial development. Being near these factories, being near this oil production affects your health. Okay, in particular, people are suffering from respiratory problems, breathing difficulties, cancers, and heart issues, which I know are quite common in most countries. They are some of the biggest killers, cancer and heart attacks. But in particular in Nigeria, because of the impact on the environment, health is suffering. Also, Nigeria has, unfortunately, and maybe I shouldn't say this on YouTube, but there is corruption in the government. Corruption in the government. Now, this government, I must be really clear, has been very successful. The post-colonial government has been really successful since about 1980s. Nigeria has a positive government. They're doing lots of things well. I'm not here to criticize the Nigerian government, but we do know that they work closely with the oil companies, and that relationship is not always beneficial. Work closely with oil companies, and they do get a lot of money from those oil companies directly. So the oil companies tend to say, right, we want to do this, and here's some money, and the government go, yeah, you can do that. Okay, that's what I mean by corruption. I mean that they are influenced heavily by the oil companies, which are also doing negative things to the country and to the people. But also the wealth in Nigeria, the wealth that's generated, as I said, it's one of the richest countries in Africa. The wealth is not equally distributed. If you ask Nigerian people, oh, have you noticed you've become much wealthier in the last 20 years? A lot of Nigerians would disagree. Yeah. A lot of Nigerians would disagree with that. Yes. Oh, QI got some facts here. Produces over half of the world's oil. Yeah, so Shell, yeah. Thank you very much, Rosa. Nice fun fact. Half the world's oil exports are Nigerian are from Shell. Fantastic. 4.2 million pounds was shared to everyone in a town and decided to pay for the oil spill. Yes, good. I've got some more facts about the oil industry. Do people invest in Nigeria's industry? Absolutely, yeah. There's a lot of American investment going into Nigeria at the moment. That's a really good question, Lorex. Thank you for that one. Yeah, American companies are investing quite a lot in Nigeria as well. So foreign direct investment, FDI, foreign direct investment, is high. So the wealth's not equally distributed. There is some issues with that. Where was it up to? Yeah, and this is some of the problems. The profits, because obviously this is economic, the profits from oil industry largely go overseas, back to their home countries. So in this case of Shell, they go back to the UK and the Netherlands. It's actually called Royal Dutch Shell, which also means, I don't know if you know this, it's got links to the royal family. So when I tell you about some of the things that the company's done in a few moments, this is associated with our royal family in the UK, because they get some of the profits from Royal Dutch Shell. It's interesting. Okay, other socioeconomic issues we've got here. These are all negatives now. We've done all the positives up there, guys. That the economy is growing really rapidly, but these are the negatives. There is conflict between different groups of people. The people are falling out with each other. Conflict between groups. So it's not all harmony. It's not all, friends and happiness. There's conflict between different groups. To give one group a name, the Boko Haram group, which is in Nigeria, which is a terrorist group, creates fear, spreads fear amongst the people. They're controlling, they create fear. And this is a group that's been allowed to operate still within Nigeria. Not obviously, they're not, like the government wants to stop it, but it exists, which is crazy. The last one, if all this money's coming in and the economy is going to be the 21st richest by 2050, you'd expect things to be a little bit better than this. The Makoko slum, which is in Lagos, which is the largest city. It's not the capital. It's the largest city in Nigeria. It's on the coast. It's on the Niger Delta. And this is a floating slum. Hopefully my geographers remember this. So it's a slum over the waters around near the Niger Delta. And effectively, it's a slum. So this is an impact. People are not living, high quality lives. In this slum, it's got all the issues of a slum. It's got a low quality of life. Things like poor education, lack of healthcare. But here's a fact that I can give you. 57% of people in Nigeria, in the whole of Nigeria, still lack sanitation, clean water and flushing toilets. That's for the whole of Nigeria. So this is the beacon of Africa, and over half the people haven't got clean drinking water, haven't got a flushing toilet. This is the socioeconomic impacts. So it's not all great. Now we're going to go up to this top bit. We're on the home straight now, guys. And I want to look at the environmental impacts. And these are even worse. These are even worse than the socioeconomic, in my opinion. And it's good to have opinions, guys. So let's look at the environmental impacts. Environmental impacts of developments in Nigeria. Okay, it's paying a high price. In fact, all countries pretty much that industrialize, that have these industrial activities, tend to suffer environmentally. Yes, that says the environmental impacts of development. So let's take each one as it comes. I want to have a look, first of all, at, let's go with deforestation. So that's areas of land have been cleared for agriculture and for oil drilling. It's got one of the highest rates in Africa for deforestation. Highest rates in Africa. That timber's been used for trade, but also to make space. So deforestation, massive impact. Could do with drawing a tree there or something, couldn't we? Yeah. Just to remember when we're in the exam, environmental impact is deforestation. A lot of countries, even Brazil, if you're studying it from Brazil perspective, the impacts of their development is massive on deforestation. We've also got, let's have a look at the next one. Just thinking about the order here. Desertification in the north. Again, because of pressures of agriculture production, overgrazing, overcultivation. Hey, are you glad that came up in paper 1? We predicted that on the channel, don't we? Desertification. Desertification, especially in the north of Nigeria, from things like overcultivation and overgrazing. So those ones are big factors. Right, I want to get on to air pollution. Let's have a look at that. With all this industrial activity, factories and industry, we've got massive impacts on air pollution. So I've already talked about asthma and breathing difficulties, but air pollution is a significant impact. In particular, there is in Lagos, the city that we focus on quite a lot in Nigeria. Lagos has 30 times levels of pollutants in the air allowed by the WHO, the World Health Organization. So the WHO have set a benchmark for air quality, and in Nigeria, it's significantly worse than that. And that's driven up by the high levels. This is driven by, obviously, industrial pollution. And one thing that's really bad in Lagos, traffic. Traffic jams are a thing of Lagos. It's very difficult to drive across Lagos. There's that much traffic on the roads, and obviously the nitrous oxide and the emissions there also adds to it. There is big problems with illegal industries in Nigeria. So they've set up. So there's been an industrial boom in illegal industries. There's about 10,000 illegal factories in the country now. So they've been set up without permission of the government, which also means that they have no environmental rules that they follow, or what we call legislation, and there's no monitoring. There's no monitoring of pollution by these industries because they're illegal. The government aren't aware of them. They know that they kind of exist, but they're unmonitored, and they're just, creating huge amounts of pollution, air pollution, industrial pollution, and things like that. But let's get to the big one. The big one is oil spills. This is the biggest issue in Nigeria. Oil spills from the oil industry. So what's the issue of oil spills? Well, it creates groundwater contamination. So the oil spills, the oil soaks into the soil, which then soaks into the groundwater, which then the groundwater becomes contaminated of kind of oil pollutants. This is basically the drinking water of the people. What is going on there? It becomes polluted with oil contaminants. This also is soil contamination. So the oil spills contaminate the soil. And you get that goes into the soil, and then that will contaminate the food supply, the food chain. Yeah, if they're growing rice or if they're growing whatever crops, cassava, whatever it is that they're growing, the oil contaminants in the soil will get into the food, and then the people digest that. That gets into the human food chain. That's why people in Nigeria, not the only reason, but one of the reasons why they only live to 54 years on average, because of these contaminations from the industry. Massive impact on agriculture, impact on things like crop yields are low. They can't grow enough food. They can't grow enough food, basically, because of these sort of things, which is a massive, massive problem. So increase impacts on crop yields. We've also got water pollution. Water pollution. So oil that spills into rivers, into lakes, is impacting water pollution, which is also impacting the fishing industry, which I think someone says, does it impact the industry? Absolutely. The fishing industry is almost impossible now in Nigeria. Local fishermen are like, the fish have gone, the oil spills have killed the fish, and now we can no longer fish. We can't make money from fishing. And again, any fish that do survive are probably going to be impacted by the pollution levels in the water. So water pollution and the fishing industry is significantly impacted as well. That's my dead fish, unfortunately. What else we got? Okay, so let's talk about a little mini case study for oil, just to be really geeky. So there was a disaster called the Bodo oil spill in 2008 to 2009. It went over 2 years. So it's called the Bodo oil disaster. We're going to talk briefly about the Bodo oil disaster. A couple of facts. So this was Shell oil, and it spilt 17.5 million liters of oil in the Niger Delta region. Yeah, in the Niger Delta region. So that region is close to the sea, obviously, because it's the delta. And Shell oil was responsible for spilling 17.5 million liters of oil. It caused all these problems here that we've talked about here, about decontamination and things like that. Right, so that's that one. And what happened was, obviously, huge impact. People were given compensation. So Shell compensated families with $4,000, which sounds like a lot, but it's not. $4,000, and now you can't catch fish ever again. Your farm is completely redundant because you can't grow crops. $4,000 is probably a year's wage, I'm guessing, roughly, for a Nigerian. So what about the next 10 years when they need to make money? It was a token gesture. But Shell compensated families about $4,000, which was nothing. It's an insult, really. Shell paid $55 million to clean up the Delta region, the Niger Delta region, which again, that's quite a lot more money. 55 million to manage the oil spills. It's quite a lot of money. But when I tell you this, you're probably going to be a bit annoyed. In 2024, Shell had record profits. What a surprise. Had record profits of let's just catch our breath for a second here. £42 billion profit. So it paid a very little amount in compensation, and look how much it took home for itself. £42 billion in profit. So yeah, crazy. Because somebody just let me know, actually, I'd be really interested. How many people does Shell employ in Nigeria? Can somebody find out that fact? I think that'd be quite a useful fact. We'll end with a positive. How many people does Shell employ? That'd be really useful. We'll end with a positive. How many jobs does Shell generate for Nigeria? It's quite a lot. I think it's about 200,000. It's quite a lot. It's about 200,000 jobs, which is amazing. Yeah, they're creating 200,000 jobs, roughly. Paying families, helping. More than 2,500. Yeah, okay. Is that directly and indirectly? I think indirectly, so they might not work directly for Shell, but they're kind of in the oil industry. I think it's higher than that. Can somebody find out? I know it's a bit geeky, but can you find out the number of jobs generated by Shell directly and indirectly in Nigeria? Okay, 6,000. Okay, 6,000. I think it's around 95% of their employees are Nigerian. Yeah, that is true. Let's put that one, actually. That is another fact, yeah. 95% employees are Nigerian, which is good. Yeah, I'm not just bashing Shell here. They do obviously generate. Yes, Bruno, thank you, and Lily and Bruno. I'm not Shell bashing here. They have helped it get to the richest country in Africa, but yeah, 95% of employees are Nigerian. Shell companies employees 6,000. Okay, so it's not as many as I thought. Okay, 6,000 people, roughly. Okay, in there. Right, that's a huge amount. This is a massive part of the course is Nigeria and the NEE. So we've got loads there. We are going to have a little look on the UK economy very briefly down here. I'll do a separate live stream next on Monday about the UK economy. And then our final one, which will be in the following week, will be on resources and water. So we're just going to finish off. Yeah, we'll just do a little section here. I'm just going to section this off here on all about Nigeria. So that's all about Nigeria, which is a massive part of that course. And we're going to have a quick look at the UK economy, economic change. And I'm just going to draw a little diagram here to show how the economic landscape of the UK has changed over time. So let's get our picture in and we'll add in some features. So the UK's economy started off in largely agriculture. So kind of pre-1700s, we had an agricultural-based economy. Most people, agricultural economy. Yeah, and most people worked in farming, basically, pre-1700s, which is the primary sector. So if you go back to the UK, primary sector jobs is where you extract raw materials, mining, fishing, farming. You're using the Earth's resources and extracting those. So in the 1700s, it's had a primary based economy, farming, and that kind of changed to because of mechanization. Mechanization is where farm equipment become more advanced. So rather than using kind of hand-based tools, they've used machinery, things like combine harvesters, tractors, which meant that less people needed to work on farms. So machinery meant that there wasn't as many people needed on farms. So that meant that many people left rural areas to go and work in the next phase of industry in the UK, which was the Industrial Revolution. So people left the rural farms and headed to cities like Derby, Manchester, Nottingham, Liverpool, the northern cities. We'll talk more about that in our next live stream. We'll look at the north-south divide and things like that. And they left the northern cities. So they left the rural areas and the farms because of mechanization. Let's highlight that word, mechanization, to go and work in the industrial carry on our little timeline here. Industrial towns and cities, where there was a lot then of secondary industry. Lots of manufacturing was going on in the UK, the Industrial Revolution. So there's lots of secondary jobs. Manufacturing. This was kind of like your 1800s to 1950s, something like that, roughly. And there was a huge amount of secondary jobs. Things like silk mills of Derby, yeah, and the brewing industry of Burton, making beer. So silk mills and brewing. We had the Industrial Revolution. We had a lot of secondary jobs. So our economy moved to secondary manufacturing. And interestingly, this is when the UK was its richest. We used to sell a lot of these products to the empire, and we became really wealthy. So I'm going to put a little pound sign up here. This is when the UK was its wealthiest It was the richest country in the world in the 1900s because of its industrial base and industry. And then in the 1960s and 70s, we had a major, well, it's still going on now, to be fair, but a major event. This is a key word. I'm just going to turn it sideways here, guys. We had deindustrialization. Factories moved overseas, the factories closed, the silk mills closed. See, deindustrialization means the closure of secondary industry, closure of factories, closure of secondary industries. There we go. So we had deindustrialization. This is like 1960s to today, really. Some factories are still closing down today, but mainly in the 1960s, 1980s, deindustrialization. Massive shift of manufacturing went to places like China, India, and the East. And we had to change. We had to change what we did. So we've got our last little bit now. And I'm going to draw some pictures here. We've got an office block. This is what our country looks like now. We've got people working in office blocks. We've got high-tech industry using computers and laptops and things like that. We've got offices. We've got retail. And now we've got a very globalized economy. So we don't just focus on our own country. We tend to work with other countries more so now. We tend to trade. And we've got globalization, which is where we trade and link with other countries. We have a global economy system basically now, where we buy and sell from other countries. And this, guys, is a really important phrase. We now have a post, because it's post after the Industrial Revolution, a post-industrial economy. Yeah, so if you get asked a question about the post-industrial economy, it basically means, what's the jobs like after the Industrial Revolution? Well, I'll tell you what they're like. They are global, they are high-tech, they are research-based. They are tertiary jobs, providing people with a service. This is my service here. You know, education is a service. Working in a shop, retail is a service. And also, we have a rise in quaternary or research type jobs. Working on science parks, working on innovation, working on AI technologies, all that exciting stuff that's going on. So let's put in quaternary there, like AI technologies. That's happening in the UK, medicines, things like that. So this is what the UK economy now looks like. We've got huge amounts of retail. We've got finance. These are the things that we do now. Retail, finance and banking. Yeah, these are the type of industries that are booming in the UK. Science parks are booming in the UK. Like Cambridge Science Park, where there's innovation and things like that. So we are going to focus on the UK economy on our next live stream in a lot more detail. But look at that, guys. This topic is huge, by the way. There's so much to talk about, but we have done pretty much all the key things of development today. How we measure development. We've looked at inequalities in the world with healthcare. We've got a massive case study on Nigeria and its growth and economic impacts and environmental impacts. We looked at the oil spill. We have absolutely smashed it. I'm chuffed to bits. We've also started to look at the economic change and jobs, of how jobs have changed in the UK over time. So I'm really chuffed with that, guys. I hope you are. You've absolutely smashed it. I love what you're doing. Thank you for joining the live stream. If you haven't hit the like button, hit the like button. It really helps to push it out across the other channels. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and all that other good stuff. It really helps us. But yeah, join us in half term. We are going to join a live stream on Monday. Next Monday, it's all going to be about the UK economy, and we're going to smash that part of revision as well. All ready for those exams on the 6th of June. But for now, guys, thanks for joining us. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm just going to go back to full screen here. Thank you very much, guys. Yep. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your evening. If you're doing French tomorrow, good luck with your French exam. And I'll see you in the next one, guys, next Monday. Thank you. Bye-bye for now.